This video is going to be showing you how to solo the Grandmaster Nightfall, which is the inside Terminus this week. For those that just want to see this, then look to the timestamps on the bottom of on the player, you'll see, and I'll have just timestamped it also. If you want to skip to the run, if you want to skip to the boss fight, do so. Whatever run you need, whatever part you need, skip to it. If you need the full thing, if you need the intro, watch it, because it may be helpful to you. So this is going to be on a Titan Stasis. So the Grandmaster modifiers, I'm not going to talk too much about them because they're the same every time. The only things we need to think about too much is obviously champions, barrier and unstoppable. There's no radar. Scorched Earth is dangerous, talk about it. Income and void and environmental damage is increased, we need to think about that. And that's about it. For Stasis, Titan, that's what we're going to use, and Behemoth. So the important components to this setup. Obviously I could have went Warlock and Hunter, which ultimately would have different setups and would yield better results probably. Titan's still going to be the hardest because it requires a lot of movement, a lot of thinking, a lot of ability usage when you need it. So that's why I've started with the Titan, because the Titan's the hardest. I may do a Warlock run, I may do that one, or a Hunter run, depending later on throughout the week. See how this one goes. So Duskfield Grenade, first of all, that's what you want. Then you want Techtonic Harvest and Howl of the Storm, because these two give you 2 additional fragment slots per, so you can have 4. So you put those on, then you run your fragments. So I've got Whisper of Chains, Whisper of Durance, Whisper of Rending, Whisper of Torment. There's leniency to change this round. The key components are Torment, because you're getting great energy, and Durance and Rending. So there's 3 of these whispers I'm saying you must put on. They are best in class. This one isn't maybe Whisper of Chains, but I felt as though I like the +10 recover on it. That's handy. And I also like that you get reduced damage from targets that are frozen. I like stuff like that for things like this. So I ran it. We paired that with the exotic chestplate Armamentarium, so we get double Duskfield Grenade, because Duskfield Grenade is so important for the strategy that we're doing. So we invested in that high discipline build, high recov. I would have liked higher recov, but for yourself, if you can get to your 10 recov, to your 10 discipline on your Titan, that's brilliant. The better recov you get. Obviously my chestplate's not that good, my Armamentarium. I'm still searching for a better one. Make your Armamentarium solar. It must be solar. If you don't make it solar, you're going to find this harder than what it needs to be. I know it says income and void is increased, but that doesn't matter. What matters is what's the burn that hits you the most. And the burn that hits you the most is probably arc, but it's less threatening, solar. And concussive dampener. These are your resistance mods. My build is basic. It's protective light, shield break, charge, take and charge. So we get protective light from picking up orbs and breaking shields. That's pretty much it. And obviously we run ammo finders and scavengers. Then a breach and clear debuff mod on our class piece, which is a +9, but it's well worth putting on. Then we run the exotic grain launcher Anarchy with ignition code. Ignition code, the reason why I went with a kinetic GL is because it will take advantage of the Whisper of Rending buff. Kinetic weapons, it says kinetic, so if I run an energy GL, I don't get that buff. I will get a buff on my primary, but we don't want a buff on our primary. Our primary doesn't do much. The GL does a lot of work, so if you can get an ignition code with blinding grenades, then do so. If you don't and you have a God Roll Truth Teller, use that. But you need void in this. That's why I've got Vouchsafe on. Put major spec on your scout. Helps out with barrier shield breaks. And that's the basics of this setup. With the start, we'll summon our Sparrow, get to the first room. Be careful when you Sparrow into the first section, because there's a couple of harpies and goblins that can blow your Sparrow up and end your run straight away. If they do, obviously you're just going to have to restart. Well, you'll be pulled to orbit anyways. Just be careful of that. But generally you can get through as long as you're Sparrowing decently, avoiding their fire. And in this first section, you're going to have a barrier that's going to teleport on you. Just leave the barrier alone. Okay? Because even if you can sometimes freeze them, like on a Warlock, you can freeze them quickly enough to hold the barrier there. But just let him teleport. Let the champion do what he wants to do. Then we'll come to the first room itself. Now, income and void is on. I said that earlier, but we don't have void damage resistance on. So there is a couple of sources of void, a couple of barriers that can do void to you, but the void resistance doesn't really help out the boss. So you just have to be mindful of void, take your time. Before you do the barrier, you want to take the Minotaur, because if you try to take the barrier, the Minotaur will hit you while you're trying to do a shield break. You don't want that. The best way I do this, or the way I found it was easiest, was doing a bit of damage with Anarchy and Scout for the first shield break. After the first shield break is broken, do a Duskfield. That's just how I do it, and then you melt him on the second phase. Or you can just do a Duskfield from the get-go, but sometimes if the barrier sort of steps out of your Duskfield, he doesn't get completely frozen, and he might put a shield up when you don't notice it. That's just how I do it. However you feel comfortable. Obviously you've got double Duskfield, so you could do double Duskfield on one champ. Be a bit of a waste though, because there's two champs right here, there's two barriers, so you want to use, you know, one Duskfield per thing. If I had a higher discipline, I would have probably got a Duskfield back anyways, so you could use double Duskfield if you wanted. But the Durance helps out, and you don't really need to do that. Another thing why I do it on the second stun is the barrier can't really sidestep, because he's stunned, so you have chance for the Duskfield to work its magic and freeze the barrier consistently then. It's a bit better doing it like that. You're going to have one more Void Shielded Minotaur that you can just sort of blind, take his shield off. It is noted that you can blind enemies still even if they got the shield up. That might be common sense to some people, but the play of some people will be rip the shield then blind, but you're better off blind and then rip the shield. There'll be a couple of goblins to the rock, the bottom right. Take those first, but bear in mind the barrier to our left is void. He's not threatening because he does the beam. See, there's different types of void damage from these champs, some of these barriers. Some of them do the void blast like a Hydra or like a Minotaur, and some of them just do the beam like like what a Harpy would do. The beam isn't dangerous, so just bear that in mind. What champs do what sort of damage. Now we'll melt on the second phase. We can reliably use our GL. My GL has field prep on it, and I can't tell you how much that helped out. A lot of people are running like these slide shot ignition GLs, and there's a lot of interesting rolls on this weapon, but when it comes down to it, what is the most reliable roll? And in my eyes, it would be this. Spike and blinding grenade option in sort of the second slot. You want to spec for velocity. I find velocity helps because it sort of gets the GL faster, sort of similar to Mountaintop, not as good in terms of the micro missile, but the arc is straighter when the velocity is higher. So I spec for velocity, and then blinding or spike. Obviously you want in that slot, and then you want field prep with either a one for all or frenzy. I find frenzy good enough because it's a passive buff when enemies are surrounded. So, and I actually have that roll. So I have the roll that's good for me, and the reason why it's so good is because I'm doing a lot of Nightfalls, and this roll just works out because field prep, you can get high damage on a target, you don't need to move about, and what happens in GMs, you need to be behind cover. So field prep lends itself. Not only that, it has inbuilt scavenger into the weapon, and it stacks with the GL scavenger on your boots. I barely run out of ammo with this GL because of field prep and because of the finders. Okay, it just seems more consistent than maybe running a demolitionist GL. Yeah, it's got that utility, but it hasn't got the ammo. And the thing is with a Grandmaster solo, is you need a lot of ammo for a long period of time. This run was an hour, just over an hour or so, right? Which, to be honest with you, I haven't been playing much Destiny, so I'm sort of, that's what happens is when you stop playing Destiny, even for a couple of days, you find yourself not as good as what you genuinely are. So this run could have been optimized. I could have done it in 50-55 minutes. That would have been my best. That would have been my cap out. Because I don't play fast in GMs, and I'll be the first to admit it. I don't, and I'm not going to really optimize the speedrun one because ultimately I don't enjoy the process of them. Unless it's a run where I can use my own stuff, and sort of build out how I want to, but you've got to build to the GM rather than you using what you want to use, and that's a flaw to me with the whole process of seasons, the whole process of anti-barrier mods rotating. The whole thing is I'm playing for Bungie, I'm not playing for me. I'm playing for my videos, I'm not playing for myself. And that's where I sort of don't like it. But we still do them, and this one's not too bad because it's barrier and unstoppable, so we can there's a bit more freedom with the loadout. I could have used Witherhoard. Witherhoard would have been an amazing run, which I might do on another character. That's got a lot of utility in it. You could have went Witherhoard, Barrier Scout, and then a heavy of your choice, maybe a machine gun, maybe a Warline machine gun, something like that, or even a rocket, a track and rocket Royal Entry or something. So now we're just clearing up the rest of the ads. The whole process of this encounter was to take the barrier from the back of the room. If you don't aggro the champ, he will back off to the exit. So that's very important. If you don't, then that's fine. You'll have to clear the ads, then the barrier at the end. So just notice that if you do one little thing differently, the whole encounter of it changes. And there's a lot of instances like that in this game, where you're positioning, if you're positioning a certain way, you'll get the outcome you wanted, and you'll be able to fight the way you want. That's what I do in a lot of my videos. Is if an activity is new, I'll analyze it, and you know, depending on what it is. Say for example, it was Presage on day 1 or week 1. You analyze it all. You say, oh, this is what happens when we do this or when we do that. And then you come to an outcome of what's the best way to fight this for me, because my playstyle differs to yours. Like, people think, even though we're using similar weapons to other people, that the playstyle is very similar. It's not. People make different choices and play quicker than others or slower. So with this play mechanic, you want to do 3 Anarchy shots, a Duskfield, and then just spam your Anarchy. If a cleaver teleports on your plate, you need to melt that cleaver down. There's a way of cheesing this, but I'm not going to do that, and I'm not going to say how you do that. It's just essentially freezing a dog. I'm not going to do that. We're just going to take the unstoppables because they're so easy to do. So ammo's dropping like crazy, so we'll just take them. Fine. But if you do cheese it, you'll still get platinum. So you can basically stop the unstoppables from spawning. For me, by the time I've done all that, I've got the unstoppables killed. So it's maybe more useful on a hunter when you can go invis and stuff like that. But generally, yeah, we'll just take them, unstoppables. What's interesting this season with the Grandmasters is when you take the unstoppables, obviously 25 power levels under on GM compared to Master. But the GMs, so a Master Champion, if I do 2 Anarchy shots and a stun, it will kill him in 1 stun and 2 Anarchy shots. The Grandmaster Champions are sort of getting there to that level. So these are basically like Master Champions in terms of their health pool, because you've got a Breach and Clear to debuff, which is essentially making them like a Master Champion, but they've got the aggro of Grandmaster. Well, the aggro is same actually, just obviously you're taking a lot more damage. But your damage is going to be similar output to what you would be on Master, because you've got Breach and Clear. So all I'm trying to say is the champions are way easier now this season than they've probably ever been, because of Breach and Clear. This is very key that you do this. Shoot the boss right here, so you get an immune number or a damage number. Then you want to run this way, do a melee, to sort of get out of the enemy fire. This isn't as dangerous as it looks. I'm switching the encounter around and fighting from this angle. If you don't do that, you'll have to fight from where I just was, and the angle isn't nice. I'm not a fan of it. I've seen some people take it from there and they do well at it, but that doesn't suit my playstyle. What suits my playstyle is up here, because I know what's going to happen. Because I've done a lot of master runs, because it only used to be master difficulties, didn't always used to be grandmasters, so I know all the ad spawns, I know how the ads react. So I'm rehearsed in this run to know that this barrier right here will push to these sort of stairs, whatever you want to call them, this area, and I can easily take him. So now we've just separated the barrier and the unstoppable, and we've separated the barrier from the ads. So now, because of what we've done, we shot the boss earlier, that stopped an additional barrier from spawning. I think it also stopped an additional spawn of adds as well. I think you get less adds if you do this. Then you want to take out the snipers. There'll be a lot of snipers spawned. You'll get 2 initial spawns, and then you'll get more because we've melted the barrier. Actually, because we shot the boss, I think. So you'll have 6 snipers or so. You want to take out all snipers before you do anything else. A sniper in this cannot one-shot you because you have solar damage resistance on. The biggest threat in Grandmasters, specifically in this one, is the Colossus anti-barrier champions. Not Vex anti-barriers, we don't have much of them anyways, because they do void, but they're not very dangerous. It's the Colossus because they just melt. And without solar damage resistance on, if your position and strafing isn't perfect, then you're done. It's going to be a death. You can die in less than a second. I've seen it happen to people, I've seen it happen to myself. So the solar damage resistance helps. The concussive dampener helps with general area of effect damage. Things that are tagging you. The nades. So the nades are a big one. So you know that Scorched Earth is on. Enemies throw more nades when you get in cover, and happens a lot. Now we're going to do a Duskfield here and a super. So we've got a super to burn. The reason why I do that is because all the adds group up nicely. As I said, I've already took the barrier out on this phase, so the only other champion up is Unstoppable. Unstoppable's not dangerous, especially with the super damage resistance that you're getting. You can basically kill all the Cabal, most of them surrounding the Unstoppable. The key thing though is do not kill the Unstoppable before the Legionaries, because the mechanic of this room is if you kill an Unstoppable, you get an anti-barrier behind you. So what can happen is they can ambush you. So you could be fighting the Unstoppable, and then all of a sudden the barrier melts you from long range. So all I'm saying is, leave the Unstoppable till last. Do it in good time. Do ammo runs. This is your time to do ammo runs, which you'll see me do when there's not a lot of Cabal up this side. Let the barrier spawn in. Now the first barrier will go right side. The second barrier on this side, like later on, you'll see wants to go left. So they have their own positions. It's important to know that, because if you rush it, the barrier can actually melt you while you're moving over. While the barrier's actually moving over. If he's on left and you're going left side, he can actually melt you before he goes to right, because you've got his aggro. So de-aggro just means you let him take the position of where he wants to be, which is right side, right to the stairs. We then take the gladiators, which is 2. You then want to take out all the legionaries. I've got 1 left alive, but what you'll find is if you get a stun on a champion, the ad, the smaller ad, the Cabal, they surround the champion. I think it's because of mob. I'm not 100%, I think it's because of that mob, but it seems to be a mechanic you'll find, like if you're doing a Nightfall, any Nightfall, say from long range distance, none of the ads will push you. As soon as you stun a champion, all the ads fold on you. It's a it seems to be a mechanic where if you engage with a barrier, you break a shield or something, it means the ads around the champion are aggroed and they aggro on you. But you can use that to your advantage, because obviously they're always in cover and stuff. And it's very important you don't push a champion when you're low health and stuff like that. Always keep an eye on your health. Now I've done a stun here with a nade. It was a good nade, but what I was trying to do wasn't trying to get the barriers. I was trying to get the phalanx, which sometimes if you're quick enough you can kill the phalanx, because again it's coming to position, and now we've got 2 barriers and 1 unstoppable that's spawned after this on this next phase. 1 barrier pushes you, the other barrier goes to the back of the map with the phalanx and the unstoppable. So we do the same thing. We take the first barrier that pushes us. We're taking this bit. We're taking it apart bit by bit. This Nightfall. You're doing each encounter bit by bit. You need to do it like that because it's a Grandmaster. Obviously, there's things I could have done well quicker. I could have optimized the run way more. But as I said earlier in the video, I'm not too fussed about optimizing something that I'm not going to do again for a bit. You know, I might do a Warlock run depending. I know I could do the Hunter run, but there's other things I'll want to do, or I might want to play other games. It just depends. Or I might want to make videos on other categories than not just, you know, the Grandmaster. But I'll make sure I get one out, which is why I'm doing this one. Same as the first phase, there's going to be scions, so you need to take out all those scions. Make sure that there's none hiding, which there was one hiding. If you ADS down near that rock, you'll find all the HP bars. So even if there's a scion hiding, you'll be able to see. So I knew there was one, which he ended up coming out anyways. It's very important you do that, because once we push up slightly, if you get hit by a Cabal, which was going to happen, you may get half HP and you'll think, oh, I'm safe. Next thing you know, a scion snipes you from nowhere. Comes out of cover, because there's no ray down. Comes out of cover, one-shots you out of the air. And then you thought you were safe, and then you weren't. And that was because you didn't look at the snipers. You weren't looking to see at all the snipers down. And this is where your ability to read all the ad spawns comes in. If you know all the ad spawns on a Nightfall or whatever you do in a dungeon or a raid, then you've got an upper hand already, because you know what's coming. Now this Nightfall's been out ages. It's been changed slightly over the years, but it's been out ages. So I'm well rehearsed. As I said, it's not by chance I got this done. It's just because I'm well rehearsed in it, because I've been soloing this since whenever it came out. I can't even remember when it came out, but that's how long it's been. It's been ages, 2 years or whatever. So now we're just picking off the rest of the ads. It's important you get as much as you can, because the further you go up, all the ads again will surround, they'll mob the champions at the back. And one Colossus is dangerous enough, never mind an unstoppable, a nade coming at you, legionary shooting at you. So that's where this is dangerous. Right now we're coming to a dangerous part. This is where you want to use your blinding nades as much as possible and peek shoot. So you start using things, you start using PvP tricks in PvE, which I find funny. Strafing behind cover, make sure you do it at all times. Only peek when you know, like, what's around that corner. Don't peek where you are going to be low HP and you'll die. Use your Stasis Duskfield nades when applicable, when's best to you. Like right now is a good time, because it may freeze a champion, which is great. It gives me time to take any legionaries out. It gives me that, you know, that time to do so. Then what we're going to do with this, because I've got a super to burn, and there's definitely only 2 champions over there, so I'm fine to push. I'm safe to do so. So I'll get this champion weak. I'm late on shield break, but that's fine, because this is what's going to happen. You do 2 anarchies first, and then do your super. Behemoth's really good at taking down anti-raid champions, because it freezes them instantly, right? But do your 2 anarchy first, and that'll debuff, and that'll mean your Behemoth does more damage. So it's really good. So you could save a lot of supers for champions over ads. That would be a good strat. But just make sure you do an anarchy or 2 before. Be careful of unstoppables hitting you, because environmental damage is on. It does increase damage to you. They're stuns, but they won't one-shot you. Depends, I suppose, how close you are. As soon as you melt the last champion, the last unstoppable, you'll get a wave of ads. You need to immediately go to the back of the map. A thing about this is you can easily get caught off guard. You could think, well, there's no champions, there's no snipers, I'm free here. But you're not. You could use a super on this phase, to be honest. I could have saved the super for the ads and used my anarchy and my scout on the champ. You could. There's various ways with how you do this. Okay, there's no yes or no. But this place is good because you can reliably get ads with your scout. If you're low on GL ammo, you can come back and just use your scout on all the ads, which you won't be if you're using, you know, a well-ruled GL with your ammo finders and stuff. You should be good for ammo. That's the thing I've found with GMs, is that you seem to get reliable ammo drops. You seem to get a lot of them, but it might just because we often use anarchy and stuff, and the ammo goes a long way with it. One thing I've failed to mention is, you'll notice there's no game audio and there's no cinematic, there's no voice audio where the ghost talks. You know, you want no distraction in this at all. You need to hear the ads. So obviously I've played with a headset on, and funnily enough, in Grandmasters, because there's no radar, If you're in cover somewhere and you don't know where the ads are, you can hear them walking around. If you have the cinematic volume to 10 and game audio and voice audio for the on Destiny settings to 0, then all you can hear is your guns and ads walking and spawns and where the boss is going and running to, and it's so helpful. I can't tell you. I've seen someone do that, a friend of mine. He done that. He done it on the Grandmaster solo, not this season, but it was a glassware, and he done that, and I thought that's actually a good technique, and it is. It was helping me out with my Grandmasters. So make sure that you, because you've heard the music in this strike more than likely 1,000 times, 500 times. No matter, you know, you hear it all the time in the strike playlist, so you don't need all that music on. It's just a distraction. Take it off. When you pick up the orb, that was an important thing. Don't pick up the orb until the ads are dead. Pick up the orb, and then you can then melt the additional barrier that's spawned. If you pick up the orb as soon as the Throttle died previously, you will get a barrier spawning with ads. That makes that more dangerous. And as I said, we're doing this methodically. We're doing beat by beat. So the run's slow, but it's been consistent throughout the whole of it. We've taken minimal risk. It's all about what risk are you willing to take. So if you're 40 minutes into it, are you willing to take a risk that's going to be a 60% chance of you dying? Probably not. You don't want to take that risk, so don't do it. You know what I mean? So you don't want to take no risks at all. This is a good position to take, this barrier. There's 2 more barriers. There's this one, and there's one at the top of the stairs. There's a way of getting less barriers on that side as well, but I'm not going to tell you how to do that because it's a waste of your time. It's going to be too difficult because you have to leave a barrier alive while fighting other ads. And it's just not worth it. You can melt barriers. They're not that much of a problem in terms of ammo, because you can melt them with literally 2 Anarchy and a couple of scout shots. So you may as well just take them. Just take them. Be careful of the 2 legionaries. They'll go to cover once the barrier is dead. That doesn't seem threatening, but when you jump over there, it is. Because the ads up top could do nades at you, while this ad's charging you, so it can be dangerous. But use your blinding nades. That minimises anything that can happen. So as I said, the last barrier in this room will go left of the stairs, whereas the first one went right, notice. So now he's left. This one does arc damage, so he's not as threatening as a Colossus. So you can control this champion a bit more. Do Anarchy shots on both gladiators. If you do 1 apiece, it'll chain together, and they'll definitely... Well, they're 1 shot off 1 Anarchy shot anyways. You don't need to get 2 on them, but I just do 1, it chains them together. Use the stairs to head glitch. We can spam a bit of ammo, because before doing all this, I'm always constantly looking what ammo is on the floor. So always bear that in mind. What ammo have you got on the floor? And also, you need to know the difference between ammo finder bricks and standard bricks. Ammo finder bricks glow brighter, I believe, whereas a standard brick will just glow as we've always had it. So that's the difference between an ammo finder. An ammo finder brick might only have 3 or 4 shots, whereas a standard brick would have 8. So you just need to know the difference, and then you can count up all your ammo in your mind and say, right, I've got this, I've got that. I would recommend using a Duskfield nade. I didn't want to use one here because I thought I would just quickly clear this, but I made hard work of it. If I'd use a Duskfield and then use my blind nade, it would kill most of them in one. There's a Void Minotaur as well, but if they do push you, you can sort of stand back here. Be careful of headless goblins. They absolutely wreck. Like 1 or 2 can get you nearly dead, so you've got to be careful with this. I could have used Anarchy as well. I'm sure I had Anarchy ammo. So this is one of the encounters where I didn't really play as good as I should have done. What I should have done is I just go out the door, maybe an Anarchy or 2, and then my blinding. That's fine. We'll take it. It's okay. Pretty much most of the ads are taken down. That's when you get a shield break here. Get that. Any ammo? Like I say, I had heavy on the floor, so I should have used Anarchy really. and then we can get on to the boss fight. So 25 minutes in, that's on an optimized run, you're looking at 20 minutes. So I'm 5 minutes slower than probably what I should be, but as I said, we're just looking to get a clear on it and get a video out on it. I'm not looking to sort of say I'm good at Grandmasters, because I'm not. I'm okay at Grandmasters. I'm alright. Depends on the Nightfall really. If I'm really into it, like I was really into last season's Grandmasters, I was into them all. Especially the new the Sepix Prime and all that. That was great. I played that to death, even solo. So it just depends. I'm not really into this one because we've had it so many times. This was the first Grandmaster ever done. When Grandmasters first came out, the first one that appeared was in Terminus. So back then, I was all up for it. Like, oh, what's this going to be like? And it turned out it was a nightmare. But the excitement's wore off for me with this, because we've been playing this for ages. And the whole thing about conquering your gilding your conquer title, it's an absolute joke. And the reason why are we gilding the title for 2 weeks of a season? I don't know why we're doing that, but you basically you get the red seal when the 6-week rotations are up. As long as you've done all the Grandmasters, you can then, you know, gild your title once and then you get it twice, but no one can see at the start of the next season that you've gilded your conqueror previously. Unless you tell them that, but you're not going to tell some random bloke in the tower. So it's an absolute joke the way we're gilding titles. It's fine for Dredging and Crucible, but it isn't fine for Conqueror. It's maybe a category for another day, for a video. Because it isn't really very good, this gilding malarkey. So we're going to spam anarchy traps everywhere, and then we're going to use our blind and to capture this plate. Use a Duskfield. Try to use your Duskfield close to the plate, so when ads come in, they'll get frozen. Then you use your super. Use your super, and that ensures you capture the plate. If you don't use a super, you may not capture the plate, or may die, even worse. So you must do that, and that's the reason why we went Stasis is because of the plates. Because the plates are so difficult to capture. On other classes, it might be easier or harder, but actually it works out really well. Behemoth Stasis is really good for capturing a zone. Okay, just there's not many times in a game where you need to capture a plate solo, you know, unless you're doing, you know, challenges and stuff like in Vogue or what have you. So there's Stasis is good. Behemoth is a really good class when you need area control, and there needs to be more encounters in the game where the area control is needed, and this is one of the prime examples where Stasis is amazing. Like a Revenant would be good, a Warlock with infinite turrets, it's really good for Terminus. But when you go and do other Nightfalls that were old, when Stasis wasn't made, they don't seem to shine as well, because the Nightfall wasn't designed, that strike maybe wasn't designed. Like Arms Dealer, you don't really need Stasis for that. You can run anything, run Night Stalker, run Golden Gun, run Void Walker. It doesn't really fit in, but for this it does. Funnily enough, Terminus wasn't made. Terminus was made ages ago, well before Stasis. So it's funny how it turned out, but Stasis is the best class for capturing plates. Well Radiance is okay, but Well Radiance, you take too much damage in a well, and it's false sense of security, which is why Well isn't as good solo wise. In the team, yeah, it's okay because the damage from enemies is shared out between 3 of you, so you're more likely to survive. But in a Well solo, you'll die on the plate unless maybe you're using a machine gun. So now we're on to sort of damage. There'll be, so this is how the boss fight works, because I know it's long, so I'm trying to stretch out my commentaries as much as possible, as I'm not used to commentating on such long videos. You know, average Master Nightfall or even Dungeon is 50 minutes max, and that's stretching it. So I never really talk on a video for longer than that. When it starts getting longer than that, it's a lot of commentary to do, and you won't find many commentary GM runs as it is. And there's a reason for that, because they're hard work to make in terms of editing them, getting your voice on them, and doing the run itself. It's just a lot of work. So, but what you want to do is position yourself in a lot of map rotation. So the ads are fixed to the boss's HP. So you do 10%, 15%, whatever it is. You get a wave of ads. You do DPS. You get another wave of ads. So you get, I don't know how many waves of adds it is, but when you get to the boss till around above half, you do the last phase of Cabal. You can then melt him to get him to immunity. Then you get to the next phase where you need to capture 3 plates. The boss goes immune, up top, floats up top, immune, and you just need to capture the 3 plates, and then the boss is then damageable. But the add rotation changes when you capture plates, which I'll talk more in depth about when we get to that stage, I guess. But right now what we're just doing is focus on staying alive. Use your GL, spam your GL, because you're gonna get ammo, even your Anarchy. It's inevitable that you are gonna run out of Anarchy and even special ammo, because the boss is way too tanky for you to do it in 26 shots. And you need to use Anarchy on other targets. You need to use a lot of GL. There's a lot of ammo, but you'll have the Mercy ammo perk that's available to everybody. So when you wipe your ammo, you get ammo back. So you're always still going to have ammo. When you run out of ammo depleted for special, primary, heavy, and kinetic, you will get ammo back. The weapons will pick up all your ammo off the floor. This little spot here, I'm doing DPS from always. Not always, but most of the time. Especially when there's no adds alive, because what it is, for me, when I'm using Anarchy on this boss, he just avoids it, or I waste ammo on him. So if you do your DPS from there, I am less likely to miss him, because he isn't doing his void stuff, he isn't dodging around. There's only 2 locations he stands, so I know where he stands, I know what he's going to do. So I can quickly Anarchy him. I just do 1 Anarchy, just to stretch out my Anarchy ammo as much as possible. Just do 1. Sometimes I'll do 2, it depends how I feel. Depends on what ammo's on the floor. But you want to stretch out your ammo as much as possible for Anarchy. But as I said, you will get ammo back. But if you can optimize damage where possible, then do so. This position where I am right now, the Void Blast doesn't really come through it. Sometimes it does, but it just knocks you in the air. The Void attack is interesting. I've learned a couple of things about it today myself, because I didn't know everything about it. But obviously the Void Blast comes to you, and the end of the Void Blast knocks you in the air. But if you stand in the middle of the Void Blast, that just melts you. So think of it like a tether on the floor. Anywhere between the start and end, the start's going to be where the boss is, the end will be where the part that knocks you up. If you stand anywhere on that for longer than half a second, you're dead. You must optimize where you stand for this boss. So standing where I am right now, I know the Void Blast can't go. There's certain areas on the map where you can't go. The biggest thing you can learn from this boss fight is where I'm standing. So, you know, you just watch it where I'm standing. Where I'm standing is you're good to go. But not always. You need to do map rotation, as I said also, because the adds will jump back and forth. So because I'm standing here, there'll be a wave of adds that will go in middle, and then eventually they'll get tired and they'll go to right side. When they go right side, you can do a bit of damage to the adds or what have you, but if there's a lot of nades coming to you and stuff like that, and you're getting a lot of aggro and you don't feel safe, map rotate. And make sure you're jumping in the air, avoiding fire, and obviously with a high recov, you'll get your health back. Obviously on a Warlock, you can sort of stand your ground a little bit better. On a Hunter you can as well, with the invis and the healing rifts on a Warlock. On a Titan you can't. This is what I was saying earlier, the movement is very important. You're moving and you're looking at your HP bar, you're not really looking at anything else. You are thinking about the boss, always be thinking, has he done his void move? When did he do it? Did he do it before? Alright, he must be on a cooldown, he'll be doing his void move in 5 seconds. So you know exactly when he's doing it and where he's going to position it at. And if he does do it, are you in the air or are you on the ground? You need to be on the air, especially if you're doing rotation. If you're going rotation from right to middle, don't just walk to middle, because he may catch you with the void move and that will kill you. So jump over there. Obviously we've got protective light which saved us there, but I wouldn't have died regardless. But it did help out just in case I got additional fire. You can farm charge with light, protective light, sorry, on tap, because you've got shield break charge. We have taken charge on, but we can't go into the middle for the orbs. This is a problem. This is why we went shield break, because later on there's some void shields and you can farm them for your protective light. So if you're not comfortable, farm a protective light and you're good to go again. Start fighting. Right now I don't have it, but I'm in control of the ads. There's not many ads left. I know where they're going to jump to. Like I said, if I go right, they'll jump around there. I can blind them. Once you start getting 1 or 2 solar nades, you need to move, because 2 solar nades can 100% kill you, even with solar damage resistance, because they do solar, right? But the concussive dampener helps out the blast radius of the solar grenade, because Scorched Earth is on for the ads. So say a solar nade is right next to you, close-ish, you can tank that. The best thing to do is move out the way, but if you do get caught off a nade, you will survive it. If there's additional fire as well as the solar nade, you'll die. 2 solar nades, you'll definitely die. If you can actually get tagged by a solar nade, so even if you jump away, it's tagged on you. It's kind of like lasting impression, but for the enemies. So be careful of that. If you do get tagged, you need to move to cover. Just hopefully you don't get tagged. Always be aware of, as soon as you hear the enemy, this comes down to the volume. Because we've got the SFX volume up, I can hear exactly when an ad's thrown a nade. Easy, well I need to move out the way. So it's run and gun this. Do a bit of damage, you run, you do map rotation. This is good for damage, as you can see right here. The boss is just, he's not dodging us too much, so I can clearly get Anarchy on and get to the next phase. What you'll also find with this area is that it isn't as good when there's ads. So when there's ads up and the boss, don't stay here too long, because it's not completely safe. As you can see, I got pretty weak there, so I don't really like fighting from there when there's ads and the boss. I only use that location for safe zone when it's map rotation. So say I go left to right, I've got that brief respite on right side for a couple of seconds just to get health regen, stuff like that. Or when I'm doing DBS when there's no other ads really alive. But I mainly like to fight and jump up and down over here, because this wall, this little platform in front of me, the void blast can definitely not go through. Whereas the other wall I showed you can sometimes go through and sometimes it won't. That one definitely won't, because I guess it's too dense to go through it. So it won't go through when I'm standing around here, but you have the downside of ads rotating from right to middle. So when you stand there, ads will rotate to right side. When you go to middle, will congregate to middle side. So that's where you need to be doing a lot of jumping, shooting GL, but it lends itself to this playstyle. That's why I didn't run a sniper. The sniper wouldn't really help me as much. It would help me for champions, but champions are not the problem for this Grandmaster. Champions, as long as you run, you know, solar damage resistance, concussive dampener, you've got Scout anti-barrier this season. It's not like it's anti-barrier sidearm. Champions aren't a problem, and Stoppables obviously aren't. They're even easier. The whole problem with this solo is getting the plates and watching the boss. Always watch the boss. If he does his void move where I am now, he can damage you as well there. So what I like to do is do my Anarchy. If he does do his void move, I jump out the way. But you keep an eye on what the void move, what he's just done. So we've finished DPS. This was the last phase of the first major phase, we'll call it. Now you can Anarchy the doors. Didn't really help me out too much, but it's worth a try. And you want to do some Anarchy in front of you. You've got double Duskfield. I think I ended up only using one. And you use your super. One error I made is I didn't pop a wall. So you should be popping a wall. So straight away. I didn't do that, but we made enough aggro with our super, with the crystals, because it sort of blocks off the way. We made enough use of our super to get away with it. But generally you want to do a wall. I did do one in the end. But the best thing you should do is do a Duskfield wall, then super. Do it like that. But that essentially means we've captured the first plate. So there's 2 more to get. That plate is for free basically, because you've got a lot of time on the first plate. You have more time to capture the first plate than any other plate. because there's no ads up, and it takes time for the ads to come out of the portal. But on the second and third plate, they're harder. First plate's easy, second and third plate are harder, because what's going to happen now is, as I said, the ad rotations change. So now with we have legionaries, we have void backpacks, we'll call them, and then we have gladiators. So you have 4 gladiators spawn with a bunch of dogs. Some of the dogs are orange bar, some of them are red. So what you want to do for this is use your nades. Obviously my nade hit that thing. Use your nade and use your blinding grenade launcher, and if you have a bit of anarchy, even if you haven't got much, prioritize using it, because if you're in danger of dying from gladiators and things, one anarchy shot will kill a gladiator. This phase you're not even concerned with ammo too much, because you're going to get the ammo drops anyways, but you're concerned with just getting through the fight. If it means expanding all your anarchy, it means expanding it. You're still going to get ammo later because of the no mercy rule I mentioned earlier, so you will get ammo when you need it eventually, but just don't conserve ammo to the point where you're going to die because you have. Never do it like that. Always play like this might be your last phase. So always be on edge, always be on, right, what's happening, what are the ads doing? So I know, right, okay, so they're jumping over to the right side. That's a lot of ads. See, there's a lot of ads there. They're not doing much damage to me, but they are getting me below half, so I move. I was trying to get a shield break for Protect the Light, which that's what I'm trying to do. But what you'll find now is all the dogs and the gladiators are dead. The way this works is once you touch the legionaries, if you kill them all, you'll get an additional set of gladiators. The ads aren't linked to the plate. They used to be linked to the plate. They changed. So what I suggest that you do is just scan around the map, keep watching all the ads in terms of the HP. Get all the ads weak. Don't kill them, because that'll proc it. Get them all weak and wait for your super. I made an error and I thought I could get a plate without a super, and it worked out badly for me. So I'm 80% now, so you wait another 2 minutes, maybe a minute of getting that super, then go for the second plate. But I learned a lesson to not do that. What I was trying to do here is get them frozen on right and then go over the way to left to get the left capture point. Then sort of go from there, but it didn't work out the way I wanted it to. Plus I didn't get the shield breaks when I wanted, and I missed time Duskfield, so I didn't really make things easy for myself. And then now the legionaries are coming. I get weak, super weak. Protective Light saves us, and I use my melee ability to get away. I always save your melee ability. It's a panic button to get out of the way of ads. So I did make a mistake, but Protective Light saved us and my melee saved us. So there's 2 components. I also should have waited for the super. I would have captured that plate fine. So we've been punished for that with another phase of gladiators. So that's fine, we'll have to deal with that. So we'll do the same thing, we'll be jumping up in the air, round back middle, same thing, blinding the ads. Any dogs that come along will be doing so. And as I said, expand your anarchy. Who cares? There's 4 gladiators. If you've got 4 anarchy, I would say well worth just using an anarchy shot on each. Or if you want to blind them that way, do it. But just bear in mind, once you're doing with that, while you're playing with the ads at the back, all the ads in middle are congregating and hitting you with their damage. And as I said, environmental damage is on. So the void backpacks, they're doing like a solar lingering damage on you, and it's classed as environmental. So you don't want to be messing about too much with this encounter. You just want to be happy that you've got the gladiators down, no matter what your ammo count is, because your ammo really doesn't do it much for capturing the plates. What your blinding GL does, I guess, but it's more the nade, the Duskfields, and your super that's going to capture your plates. It's not so much going to be, well, did I have anarchy? Anarchy will assist you. You can put a couple of traps around, but it's not required. As long as you do your wall, your super, a couple of blind nades, and you're good enough. To capture left side plate, you want to congregate all the ads to right. So you can do that by coming to this location. They eventually will come over. Then when you're happy, you can go for left. I think I ended up going for left. I wasn't fully happy with how the ads were positioned, but it was good enough. I knew I had a surface so I could capture it. So we do 2 Duskfields, one either side of each other. That's a good double Duskfield there. It's keeping those ads in place. I've put a wall up like I should have done, and I used my surface. I could have probably captured this play without a super, but that would have been risky. And you can see the legionaries teleporting or jumping on me, so the best choice was still to use a super. So learn the lesson from me. Even if you feel confident, just wait out your super for the next play. So you're going to need in total 3 supers, of course, for each player. You could essentially farm gladiators and dogs until you get your next one, but it's that dangerous doing it that you're just pleased that that phase is over, so I didn't even bother. I don't think I did. Never stay stationary, of course, just keep jumping up and down. Keeping an eye on all your ads, where your gladiators are. So obviously you need that when there's no radar. I always thought that was a bad mod. It's like, what's the point in this? But it actually works out decent for some Nightfalls where you're kind of struggling because of it. The last way was a good example. You don't know which side you're going to get flanked sometimes because there's no radar. So it actually made it interesting. For some Nightfalls it doesn't matter to me. As the ads are sort of in front of you, you know all the spawns. I know all the spawns for this, but gladiators can flank you if you just stand in the middle. It's important not to get flanked. You can also hear if there's any dogs alive. They make an audio cue to tell you that they're still alive. So consider all of that information. Flying the rest of the ads. It's fine. Once we get all the gladiators, we can then refarm up Protective Light. I don't know if I do, but I should do. That should be your next strat. To refarm Protective Light up from the shield, and to get all the ads weak again. So you want to get all your legionaries weak, the void backpacks weak. I think it's the same void that we got initially, so they're already weak. It's a chance to do an ammo run. Now when you're doing your ammo run, it's so important not to just go in the middle. I know it might be tempting, and obviously if you wipe all your ammo, you can get all that ammo back anyways if the game counts all that stuff in. But what I'm doing is blinding the ads first, and then I'll pick a side. So if the ads are in middle, I'll blind them in middle, then I'll go right, and the same would work for middle. So I could lean them all to right side, blind them or just fail them, and then go to middle for your ammo when there's no ads up, because they will melt you and you'll be caught off guard at times. It'd be surprising. So we're 75%, we're just sort of waiting on our super now. I should have really found a Protective Light, but what I was frightened of is if the void backpack, if they blow up on the legionaries, then it would kill the legionaries, and I'll get another spawn of gladiators. So I decided not to. Which just goes to show that's why Roman supers are good in certain instances, because you get that damage resistance while you're using it. So sometimes it's not the damage it does, it's the damage resistance it gives to you. Work ourselves back to middle, like this. And we'll just wait our super here, which we're close-ish. Obviously while you're still waiting for your super, just be careful, mindful of any solar nades. One can't tag you from the location I was at, so just be mindful of it. As I said, this is totally worth doing. I know it's going to be a longer run for you, it's a longer run for me, but it's just going to be a consistent way of definitely getting that final plate. Because once you pass the free plate mechanic, you're pretty much done. It's not done, but you've done the hardest part of the whole thing. It was capturing these plates. As when the boss comes back, he will revert to the old strategy of he'll just spawn in adds, not infinitely, but linked to his HP bar. So eventually, adds will just stop spawning, so you can just, you know, finish him off. So we're 95% now. We're just gonna sort of decide on what we're doing for middle plate. Because it's middle, we can't do what we've done before where we baited all the way over to the right to then get left plate. So there's going to be a short distance, what I was saying, between right and middle. So you're going to have to be on the ball with this, essentially. So we'll bait the adds, just wait for a little bit. You can freeze them. You could have used one of your Duskfields, I guess, but I decided not to. Use my melee to get there quicker. Couple of anarchy traps, 2 of your Stasis nades, and then just use your super as soon as. Because the quicker you freeze them before they get to the plate, the higher chance or success you have of getting the plate. Sometimes they'll jump over your wall. That's fine. We had enough Stasis abilities to take them. As you can see, both like left and right of that plate was completely blocked. And that's the plate mechanics finished. You won't get additional gladiators for the final plate unless you fail to capture it. You will. So you're free to take out all adds. There's no strategy of keeping adds alive. You need to take out what's in front of you. Any dangers, take them out. So when it's adds and the boss, same again. We'll use our blind nade launcher. We'll use our Duskfield nades because you can do a lot of damage to the adds and you know, get that combo damage. And then when there's the no adds, you'll come back to your location on the right. And just know that if you stand out too long, the boss will do his void move, or is more likely to do that. Just keep doing this. Anarchy when possible. As I said, just do one. If you want to do two, you can do two. It doesn't really matter because you're not in a rush to be doing quick damage. This is all about just getting through it. So because there's a lot of ad spawns. I don't know if I think there's 4 ad spawns on this last phase. I think something like that. You will get good damage with the Duskfield in the middle, and as I said, the Whisper of Rendering, buffing the kinetic damage. This works out really well with a kinetic GL as opposed to energy. An energy GL would have done the job. Initially what I was going to do was, I wanted to do Titan, I know that 100%, because GM's are a little bit easier. I tend to go on the harder classes, because Bungies give us a bone by giving us Bridge and Clear, so, you know, they made it a little bit easier, so okay, I'll go on the harder class, which is Stasis, which has been done before. I've seen other people do this strat. I'm not the founder of this, definitely not. But yeah, I thought I'll go Titan. But I was going to go Truth Teller, Anarchy and Hung Jury. I was wanting to really use my Hung Jury out my God roll. It's not an Adept roll. It's the standard roll. It's the standard version, but it's a God roll because it's got Rapid Hit, Explosive Payload. And the thing is, I'm just going to keep using that Scout until I get the Adept version with that roll. If I don't get the Adept version with Rapid Hit, Explosive Payload, I'm not interested in using the Adept one, because if we're thinking about it, basically you're going to be putting Adept big ones in the Hung Jury. So say I did get the God roll, or you did, Adept, Hung Jury, Rapid Hit, Explosive Payload. The only difference is that you can put Adept big ones in it, and all that does is that combines boss spec and major spec together. Is that a big difference? No, because you're not going to be using your Scout on the boss much anyways, so you would only really need major spec, so it's pointless. The whole exercise is pointless unless, you know, I guess Adept backup mag, that will be useful because that gives it a bit more ammo, but it's got Rapid Hit on it, so as long as you get Rapid Hit, Explosive Payload on the standard, you don't need to farm the Adept version really. I would farm it in a team, and if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. The only reason would be aesthetic reasons, the way it looks. But it's just a shader applied to it. It doesn't really look any different to the normal. The normal looks pretty good with a lot of shaders. So it's not a big deal to me, really. So we'll come back for DBS. We've got an add phase here. It's the same again. Keep hold of your super just in case. That's your panic button, just in case the ads overrun, which can be a thing. But what I'm going to decide to do, I think, because I've talked extensively about how to do this strat, what to do, everything you know is in the video. So if you've watched up until now, up until this mark, there's nothing else that can provide you with information. Just always be jumping up and down, map rotation, use right side, use middle, save stasis nades for middle because it does damage to the boss. It also does damage to the ads. When you want to do easy boss damage when there's no ads alive, go right because it's easy shot with anarchy. You don't miss. It's hard to miss, should I say. And that's, other than that, if you're in a tough spot, use your melee to get out of there, but don't take risks, especially when you get this far into it. Like right now, if I was to die, that's 55 minutes of my life wasted doing this, which I don't want really. And it's easy to die because the ads hit hard, of course. Always be aware of the boss when he does his void move. That's pretty much all there is to it. So I'll let the rest of the footage play out. I didn't get Hung Jury. I did get Hung Jury Adept, but it didn't pop up. It went to my Postmaster. It wasn't a very good roll, which is why I haven't showed it. But other than that, I hope you enjoy. Thank you.